spent a lot of money, over $250,000 on my own personal health. And through that process, what I kept realizing and coming back to.
Before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Who do you help?
Yeah, so I make videos on the internet, mostly about health and wellness, biohacking stuff. And my focus really is helping entrepreneurs optimize their sleep and their performance and their energy. These are all things that I've struggled with and have since like sort of overcome and figured a lot of stuff out. And normally I see, the reason why I pick sleep basically is because I spent a lot of money, over $250,000 on my own personal health. And through that process, what I kept realizing and coming back to was that sleep optimization is the #1 thing that anyone can do to improve their energy, their focus, their performance, make more money, have better relationships, and just live a better life. And so after spending all this time, money, and energy trying to sort out all this different stuff for myself, I realized that the foundation needs to be set in order for you to actually be successful with any of the other protocols or things that you want to do. Because if you're not sleeping well, good luck doing anything else.
Totally agree with you. And it's funny, I'm sure you see this all the time too. People reaching for all these really extreme health measures before they've optimized their lowest hanging fruit. And in a lot of cases, that lowest hanging fruit is their sleep. And there's a few simple, I don't want to call them hacks, but changes that people can make to really optimize that number. And it's helpful to know what the number is. And we'll talk about some of the cool medical devices that people can dive into to really get a handle on their sleep. But before we get started on strategy, let's talk a little bit about kind of the physiology, benefits, and risks of neglecting sleep. So first, let's start with what does sleep do for you?
So sleep is, I look at sleep as the time in which you heal and recover and restore. So if you don't have time to heal and recover and restore, then you're basically just building up stress, tension, pressure on the system that it needs to be released. And so when you sleep, in deep sleep, your body's recovering. In REM sleep, your mind is recovering, and it's getting rid of toxins, it's healing, it's repairing damage, it's healing the muscle tissue as well that's been broken down if you're working out or exercising. And it's where you can also consolidate memories and emotions. So if you're experiencing a lot of stress, or you've had trauma, or you're maybe just going through something in the moment, during your sleep is when your sort of filing system is going to work to put memories in different places so that you can actually process things appropriately. So when sleep starts breaking down and is suffering, you're going to start seeing mental emotional problems very quickly. Anxiety, depression, and then eventually more severe sort of things like schizophrenia and just really intense stuff. And then from a physical standpoint, you're going to start seeing blood sugar issues, leading to prediabetes. You're going to start seeing hormonal issues. So, for men out there, testosterone issues and maybe issues with cortisol and then, a whole host of other things, not being able to focus, not being able to concentrate, and just being less resilient in general to stress and the stuff that we need to deal with as human beings moving through this thing we call life.
Yeah, it's amazing that whatever power may be gave us sleep as like the ultimate healing mechanism. And when that healing mechanism is disturbed, all kinds of things go wrong. You get immune deficiencies, you get
that too.
Increased risk of cancer, colds, people who are chronically sick with like mild flu symptoms all the time. A lot of times it can be attributed to sleep. That cloudy feeling that you get during the day where you can't quite think clearly, also highly attributed to bad sleep. And I confided in you, I had an issue where I was waking up in the middle of the night. And it's been going on for the past maybe 6 months now. And you had a great solution to me, which we'll get into in a little bit. But I'm excited for the audience to hear about that. Kyle, what is the optimal time, the amount of time somebody needs every night of sleep?
Yeah, I think 7 to 9 hours is a good sort of window to sort of shoot for. Some people need less sleep, some people need more sleep, but everyone needs at least about 7 hours. So I would just aim to get, if you need 7 hours, I would aim to get 8 hours in bed. If you need 8 hours, I would aim to get 9 hours in bed. If you need 9 hours, I would aim to get 10 hours in bed. Because it's going to take you some time to fall asleep, and it's going to take you some time to get up.
Is there any way to tell whether you're a 7-hour guy or a 9-hour guy?
I think the best way to do it is to get a tracker, right? Whether it's an Apple Watch or an Oura Ring or a Whoop or anything, so you can get a baseline of just like when you see how much sleep you're getting, you can sort of equate that to how you feel, and subjectively you can start to put the pieces together.
That's good.
And I would say if you're training if you're exercising and training and you're an entrepreneur, which I think most of your listeners are,
Yes.
then you probably need more sleep than everyone else because you're under more stress than everyone else.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs have to deal with so many more problems than, let's say, lay people have to deal with because they're just responsible for a lot more. And so when you're responsible, you're carrying a lot more stress. Just by nature of doing what you do, but that's not necessarily a bad thing if you have ample recovery time, right? So stress will help you grow stronger, but you need to be able to recover from that stress. If you're chronically under-recovered, then you're going to keep breaking down the system and breaking it down and breaking it down and breaking it down, and it never has a chance to actually heal, recover, and adapt. So it can be stronger and become more resilient. So yeah, if you're working out and you're exercising, which I imagine you are, if you're watching this or listening to this, you need more sleep. So I would just veer on the side of more sleep.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone like died because they got more sleep. You know, I think that rarely happens.
Right. Usually you're sleeping because you're dying.
Yeah, and you can sleep too much. I will say that, you know. So I think it's important also to put a restriction on how much time you're actually going to stay in bed total. But if you're a high performer, you're training hard, you're working hard, then I would advocate for, you know, at least 9 hours.
Yeah, especially for entrepreneurs, I agree. For people like myself who want to get the most out of their day, it requires a lot of mental clarity. It requires a lot of the ability to motivate myself to do things that I otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah.
And when I'm tired, it's much harder to do that.
Yeah, and you're burning so much glycogen as an entrepreneur. It's like literally, being an entrepreneur is like being an athlete because your brain is working and solving problems and being creative and like throughout the day. It's like high functioning, high performance sort of activities that require a lot of nutrients, that require a lot of your system. So yeah, as much rest as you can give yourself, I think the better you'll be.
Me too. And I haven't asked you this yet, so sorry for the surprise.
No, it's cool. I'm good. Put me on the spot.
What is your take on naps? Do you take naps, and is there an ideal amount of time that a nap should be?
Yeah, so I don't take naps. I don't advocate for naps because I think it's hard to get it really right. But I do advocate for NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, or meditation, or yoga nidra, or something that like hypnosis, or something that where you're dropping into a theta state so that you can get that mental reboot for like 15 to 20 minutes, and then you can get back to work. Because the problem with naps is if you don't wake back up and you miss your sort of sleep cycle, then you end up actually messing with your rhythm quite a bit. So I would more push people towards the idea of doing some type of NSDR before taking a nap.
I'm sure there's a lot of similarities too between the NSDR and a power nap. Because ideally a nap should be like less than 30 minutes. You don't want to start building any sleep momentum. Then you start to lose the benefits.
Yeah, because when you nap, if you nap too long, you're going to slip into deep sleep, and that's going to mess with the adenosine buildup that's taking place. And adenosine is this chemical in your body that makes you feel tired. And so you'll wake up and you'll just be sitting with a lot of this adenosine in your system, and that's going to make you groggy post-nap. And then you won't have as much adenosine in the evening, which is going to help you fall asleep and stay asleep. So, yeah, it's kind of like you got to be kind of careful with that. So, yeah.
No, I like your insights, and it's probably a lot of similarities to how I nap.
Yeah.
Kind of just like laying there for 15 to 20 minutes. I don't reach a full sleep.
Yeah.
And then I'm up and I feel a little bit more rested and ready to go.
Yeah, cool. And that's how you should feel after something like that.
Let's talk a little bit about some low-hanging fruit that could be affecting a lot of people's sleep, some commonalities and sleep disorders that people are having, whether it be waking up in the middle of the night, insomnia, trouble getting to sleep. Yeah. What are some of those most common ailments?
Common ailments that I think a lot of people experience and or talk about or know about is sleep apnea, insomnia, waking up in the middle of the night, can't go back to sleep, and then also waking up feeling tired and having trouble winding down in the evening. So to start with sleep apnea, in my opinion, from my perspective, I'm not a doctor, so obviously do your own research. But from what I see with people and the people that I've worked with, it really has a lot to do with their breathing. Yeah. And so if you can change the way that someone breathes, then you can get them sleeping throughout the night. So with sleep apnea, it's usually that they're mouth breathing, and if you can train someone to start nose breathing and doing the proper breathing exercises, then you start to see some changes. Yeah. So that's like the solutions for that are something called Buteyko breathing, which you can look up. A guy named Patrick McEwen, he talks a lot about Buteyko breathing. and that's gentle nose breathing, and then taping your mouth while you're asleep. That'll be helpful. But then also when we sit, we collapse our diaphragm, and when we do that, it changes our breathing from breathing through our belly to breathing through our chest. And when we breathe through our chest, it sends us into a sympathetic overdrive, as well as it naturally makes us sort of breathe through our mouth. So if we can learn how to do diaphragmatic breathing and train ourselves how to breathe through the nose throughout the day and in the evening, and then we tape our mouth before we go to bed, then usually the sleep apnea can go away. Or the sleep apnea is not actually sleep apnea, it's actually disguised as something else. Usually some type of overstimulation. Yeah.
Sleep apnea is an interesting one, and if you are suffering from that, common cause is obesity, so there's a lot of physiological changes that can like cause the airway blockages.
Yes.
There is nothing more horrible than telling somebody they need to sleep with a CPAP machine. That's one of those breathing machines that shoots air in and sucks air out while you sleep.
Ironically, sometimes people who are really muscular develop sleep apnea because the muscles in their neck and around their shoulders constrict their airways, and so that causes a lot of problems for their breathing, and so that's what leads to the sleep apnea, which is kind of ironic. But
it's funny, if you ever seen somebody sleep with sleep apnea, like during a sleep study, they'll like struggle to breathe, and you're watching them struggle, and then they stop, and you're like,
oh fuck, and
then they wake up,
like
gasping for air. It's pretty terrifying to watch. But yeah, sleep apnea is not a fun thing. And
so you saying that makes me, it just like jogs like also something is sometimes sleep apnea might not be sleep apnea, it might be something that's in the air. So the air in our homes air quality in our homes is way worse than the air quality outside. Yeah. So getting a really good air filter, because you might be allergic to something that's happening in your house, could be mold, could be dust, could be chemicals from the paint, or there's so many things that it could be. So getting a HEPA air filter with the carbon filter, I have a video on my channel which we'll plug at the end, but basically you want to get the right type of filter in your room and in your house to ensure that you're breathing the right type of air, like clean air that's filtered, because if you're breathing in stuff that you're allergic to, or potentially you're getting an infection like I was with a mold, then you're going to have issues that will maybe be misdiagnosed.
Not to mention it can be really irritating to be sitting there breathing in dust and particles. It can be scratchy. So I agree. I have an air filter. I highly recommend everybody get one.
Yeah, it's super important.
If you have a recommended one, I'll drop it in the
I use a Koei Mighty is the one that I recommend.
Cool. Yeah. We'll drop that link there. All right, we spent a decent amount of time on sleep apnea. What's the next one?
Next one is insomnia. So insomnia to me is actually a quite simple fix, but it has a lot to do emotionally what's going on in their relationship to sleep. So if you can get to the root of why they have this weird sort of relationship with sleep, then you can kind of unpack that and help them see it. And when you can help them see how that relationship is affecting them, and then you can change it and give them new beliefs, then you can create a good feedback loop where they start to reinvent their identity and their relationship to sleep, which changes their behavior. And when you change their behavior, then it changes the results, and when it changes the results, then they get more feedback that reinforces the fact that they are a good sleeper and that they don't have insomnia, because they're living with this label, and they behave in a way that's congruent to that identity.
Right.
And then when you can change the identity, then the other stuff kind of changes. But oftentimes when I see people who have insomnia, there is that emotional component, but it's also, if you look at their lifestyle, it's like you're not doing any of the stuff that would help you get good sleep. Right. So they're usually not eating the right type of diet, maybe drinking sodas or sugary food, drinking too many stimulants, and they're not moving their body enough, they're not getting light at the right time, all this stuff we'll talk about with the circadian rhythm. So which I guess I'll just mention now, like if you just get someone on a healthy circadian rhythm and you clean up their emotional relationship to sleep, then I feel like 80% of people who have insomnia would probably not have insomnia anymore. Yeah. And then there's probably some nuanced things in there with like nutrient deficiencies and environment and trauma and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what I see for that.
And this is probably the sleep disorder where people will start reaching for pills because of that relationship. I have a disease, I need medicine.
Yes. When in reality, it's like most sort of Western modern diseases that aren't based on, that don't come from infections, really can all be changed through lifestyle and mindset. Most of them. I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them. right?
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of natural changes that you can make that are medicine.
Yeah.
Exercise is medicine.
Yes.
A healthy diet
Food
is
is
medicine.
medicine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good environment, good community, a purpose in life, all
Light,
these things.
even
Yeah.
the
Light.
sun.
Yes.
Sun exposure.
Yeah. So the circadian rhythm is dictated by these two chemicals, cortisol and melatonin. They're hormones, and this is regulating your energy throughout the day. So the way that you can change and optimize your circadian rhythm so that you can have really healthy sleep is by influencing three factors: light exposure, movement, and your feed fast window, which is like your meal timing, when you're eating. So in the morning, go for a 20-minute walk, expose your body and your eyes to some sun. It's going to trigger the healthy release of cortisol, which is going to regulate that melatonin in the evening. So the cortisol comes up in the morning, and then the melatonin comes up in the evening. And when you go for that walk, it makes sure that that process in the morning and in the evening is happening in the right way. Then, going for that walk is also going to help set your blood sugar for the rest of the day, which is going to help basically make your energy stable.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people who have dips in the afternoon, it has a lot to do with blood sugar or after they eat. So one of the best things that I tell people to do is to go for a walk after their meals. So that 20-minute walk in the morning, but then a 20-minute walk after lunch and after dinner. And that way you're hitting those three factors of that, that light exposure. Every time you go outside, go for a walk, you get more light. And then the movement, every time you go for a walk, you're obviously moving. And then the meal timing is having breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time. And if you do intermittent fasting, then just having your first meal and your second meal at the same time. And ideally, you have your dinner 3+ hours before you go to bed, because that way your body has time to digest the food.
Right.
And when you eat, it increases your core body temperature and raises your blood sugar, both of which are going to disturb your sleep. So this is very basic things that people just aren't aware of.
Right.
And so if someone tells me they have insomnia, I could look at their lifestyle and just be like, well, are you doing any of these things? And usually the case is no. They're not eating at the same time, they're not viewing light at the same time, and they're not moving their body. So it's like if you can just move those levers for people, then usually that's like the 80-20.
Yeah, and these are kind of the free, low-hanging fruit levers that
Yes.
people can optimize before they start reaching for the more intense stuff. So let's break down a couple of those because I have some questions.
Sure, yeah.
Let's start with light exposure.
Yeah.
I sleep with my windows wide open so that when the sun comes up in the morning, it's like boom,
Yep.
I'm up.
Yep.
And then at night, I still struggle, as I'm sure a lot of the listeners do, with watching TV too late at night, playing with their phone before bed, and getting a lot of that blue light that tells our melatonin feedback system to keep the melatonin suppressed and doesn't let you get tired.
Yeah.
So there's a simple intervention. I'll almost call it free, which is the blue light blocking glasses, because it's a one-time fee of like $20 for a pair on Amazon.
Totally.
Is that something that you recommend? Do you sleep with your windows open?
I don't sleep with my windows open. I actually have blackout shades, and but one of the first things I do is I wake up naturally, and then I go outside within the first hour and go for that walk to get that sun exposure, because you don't get as much of the light that you need even through a window.
Yeah.
So you have to go
It
outside.
depends on the window.
Yeah. I think it's best to go outside and because you want to go outside and move your body anyway. So, but the thing with the light in the evening, yes, I do wear blue light blocking glasses, but I also have red light bulbs in my house that switch. They turn on in the whole house at 8:30, and that way it's like a trigger to my mind. It's like, hey, it's time to start winding down. But then also it is, getting rid of that blue light, which will help with that natural production of melatonin, like you said. But if I'm traveling, then I'm just wearing blue light blocking glasses 90 minutes to 2 hours before bed. The earlier you wear your blue light blocking glasses, the earlier you will wake up. So you can use the blocking of a blue light to basically time your circadian rhythm. So if you want to go to bed at 10:30, then put your glasses on at 8:30. And depending on when you want to wake up, if you want to wake up later or earlier, then you would just put them on a little bit later or a little bit earlier.
So let's talk about the next one, which is circadian rhythm, which I think is where a lot of people have the hardest time, especially when you're on trips like this. I'm 8 hours from where my normal time zone is. So
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit harder to adapt.
Yeah.
And then life happens, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to stay up late. Sometimes you accidentally wake up in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
fully energized, and you
Yeah.
spend all night working, and
Yeah.
then you got to correct it the next day.
Yeah.
So what are some tips that you have on circadian rhythm?
Tips on circadian rhythm are, it's really basic, but I would say just be very committed to managing the variables that I just talked about to the best of your ability. So that's your light timing, your meal timing, and your movement. But I use exercise as a great trigger to basically change the way that my blood sugar is going to be affected by the food that I eat. So when you work out, the insulin response that you get from carbohydrates is not the same. So you basically process the carbohydrates a lot better, and when you exert yourself, you're also it's gonna make it easier to fall asleep.
Right.
So if you're not very active, then it's kind of hard to utilize that blood sugar, and that's going to cause those sleep disturbances where you wake up in the middle of the night. So the reason why you wake up is because there's a dip in the blood sugar, and then cortisol is released to basically regulate that blood sugar.
Yeah.
And that's why when you wake up, you're like, whoa, I'm up and I can't go back to sleep, and it takes like an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours to go back to sleep, or you just don't go back to sleep.
Yeah, this one's my problem
Yes.
right there. Yep.
Yeah, so the way that I would negate that is to make sure that I work out like pretty much every day. And then what is really important is to go for a long walk after dinner.
Yeah.
Because that's going to bring that blood sugar down. Even if you didn't train, you're still at least going to be able, so you're not going to get the same type of insulin response, but at least you'll get the blood sugar to come down. But then in addition to that, some of the other contributing factors are just like having an early dinner. So maybe you have some of these other variables, like you weren't able to hit very well, but it's like, you're like, no matter what, like I'm going to have 3+ hours between the time I go to bed and the time that I have dinner. And I'm going to go for a long walk afterwards. So that's kind of the way that I would hedge against having that blood sugar dip in the evening. But then in addition to that, I like to do stuff that down regulates my nervous system and makes me less stressed, which is going to make my blood sugar more stable as well. So I meditate before bed, even if it's 10 minutes, just to calm my system, calm my body. And I find that really helps too.
Do you meditate yourself to sleep, or do you meditate and then go to bed? Because I kind of meditate myself to sleep. Like I'll put something on and then I'm out.
Yeah.
Is it separate for you?
Yeah, it is. So basically, I'll do sitting meditation for like 10, 20, 30 minutes.
Gotcha.
And then I'll get in bed. And then when I'm in bed, I focus on nasal breathing. And sometimes this is an interesting sort of hack, is I have a forgiveness practice that I do, whether I'm forgiving myself or I'm forgiving someone else. And what that does is when you do forgiveness, it shifts your brain into a theta state, which is like really close to sleep. And so it relaxes and downregulates you. So I sit there in my bed and I do some nasal breathing while I think about the forgiveness stuff. And then, within a few minutes, I'm pretty close to sleep.
Interesting. I've heard that about a few different practices, gratitude and prayer.
Yep.
And they all probably put you into a similar state. And it's like a peaceful kind of state. Interesting.
Yeah. And so that helps relax the mind too. It gets you out of your head.
Cool.
Yeah.
What are some, I guess, common problems that people screw up immediately? Like if you do this, your sleep is going to be ruined.
Drinking
alcohol.
Yeah, drinking alcohol. There's no way around it. Like if you drink alcohol, your blood sugar is going to be totally crazy, and you're not going to get deep sleep. And it just crushes your recovery.
Yeah, it's funny when I do drink and I track this and I see just how bad it is. I think I learned this a long time ago, is because you have a night out, you drink a lot, and then you process alcohol relatively quickly. Like 1 drink per hour is metabolized. You wake up in the middle of the night in some sort of withdrawal, and it triggers like an adrenaline response.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get out of that.
Well, it's the same thing that I talked about before with the blood sugar dipping and then the cortisol. That cortisol release, it is like adrenaline. It's like, and that's because when you drink, your blood sugar goes all crazy.
What about stimulants?
Stimulants, same thing. It's like one of the things I teach is that I want to create results via negativa, which means instead of adding more things to your plate, I just want to remove the things that are preventing you from getting good sleep. And those things would typically be alcohol, weed, stimulants, and screens. So if we can get rid of those 4 things, then it's actually pretty hard to get bad sleep, right? So if you could just get those out, then you're going to be pretty safe.
You're trying to tell me smoking a blunt before bed isn't good? The people will swear by it.
Yeah, it makes you sleepy, but in the data, it is not. It's not. There's no correlation between getting better sleep.
No, I've seen that too. I say the same thing, but people still swear they gotta smoke before they go to bed.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that there's an emotional thing there that gets to be resolved, and then they would actually sleep a lot better sober.
They're medicating themselves to sleep.
Totally. Yeah. So it's like, why do you need something exogenous to do something that's so natural with the human body? Yeah.
Did we miss any low-hanging fruit to discuss on how to optimize sleep?
Yeah, I think one of the things that is really makes getting good sleep effortless is setting up your bedroom and your home in a way that is conducive to sleep. I call it building a sleep oasis. So a good sleep oasis is cool, dark, clean, quiet, and safe. So if you can cultivate an environment in your house and in your bedroom that makes you feel that way, in the way that someone would design a hotel or or a spa or something, when you walk in, there's a vibe, there's an experience, there's a frequency to how you are feeling because they designed it that way intentionally. So if you could put a little bit of intentionality into the design of your home and your bedroom, then you can make it really effortless to come into a perfectly sort of relaxing, sleep-inducing environment so that it's once you do it, it's done, right? Like you don't have to think about it. So in my house, it's like my bedroom is blackout. I have the 8 Sleep mattress pod, which we can talk about in a second. I have lamps that turn red, like I talked about. I have the air filter. I have some house plants in my room for the quality of the air as well. And it's a very clean, aesthetic room. And I don't work in my room. It's just a place to sleep.
Right.
It's to sleep, to relax, to have sex, and that's basically it. And so that's just basic sleep hygiene.
Yeah, that's another one that I forgot about too, right? Setting your bed up as a place for sleep, not a place for work, not a place to watch TV.
Yes.
And that's something I think a lot of people get wrong.
Yes. And I used to be I was like, I did that. I used to work from my laptop from my bed all the time. Yeah. But no,
I'm still a victim once in a while. I try not to do it. But
yeah.
We're not perfect. Let's talk about some of the little bit more innovative, a little bit cooler stuff that people can reach for when they're trying to get just that little bit more out of their sleep. What are some really cool devices or supplements that you have implemented into your routine that help you get the most out of your sleep?
Yeah, so the supplement that I take, I don't take any other supplements other than this one for sleep. It's MagTech from Natural Stacks, which is the best form of magnesium. It has magnesium glycinate, threonate, taurate, and it works. I've seen an increase in my REM sleep, and I have crazy dreams. And magnesium glycinate helps you get ready for sleep. Threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier. Taurate relaxes the nervous system. So it's a very powerful supplement. And every time I recommend it to someone and they switch from the magnesium that they're taking to this one, they're like, holy, like what? Like
you want to hear something wild? Last night I took some of your MagTech.
Yes.
I forgot that I took it until just now.
Yeah.
But I crushed my sleep numbers last night.
Really?
I got the crown last night for the first time this entire trip.
Hey, you heard it here. So if you guys want to check out MagTech, you can use code KyleGotCamera at checkout and you'll get a discount. And it will change your sleep, guaranteed. It's pretty profound. I've tried a lot of stuff and
yeah, they didn't pay me to say that.
Yeah,
it's real.
Yeah. So that one's in the regimen and has been for years.
Cool.
So that's one, and then the second is the 8 Sleep mattress cooling pod, which is a cover that basically cools the top of your bed. It also tracks your sleep, but the tracking is not very accurate, in my opinion. But it's great because it cools your bed throughout the night, depending on the temperature outside, the temperature in your room, and your preferences. And then it heats up in the morning to wake you up with gentle vibration as well. So that's a game changer, and I love it. And then the other thing, the technology or supplements that I use, I've recently just gotten a PEMF mat, which I know you talk about as well.
Huge advocate.
Yeah. So getting on this mat, it's infrared and PEMF from higher dose, and you basically, it feels like a heating pad, but it shifts you immediately into like parasympathetic sort of relaxation mode. And it uses this frequency that's like the same as Earth's frequency, like the Schumann resonance. And it takes you from these beta brainwaves to like theta, delta brainwaves, and they have different settings. And so when I get on it, it feels like instant meditation.
Right.
Yeah, so I've been playing with that, and I think for people who want to wind down quickly and are just like, they have a lot going on and they don't have time for a long routine, maybe just doing like 10 minutes of meditation on the PEMF mat. Yeah, I think that's a game changer. I'm going to start recommending that a lot.
Yeah, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
The technology is so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm like still studying how it all works.
Yeah, I have no idea how it works. Yeah.
It's fun. It's an interesting one. I think it'll be widely adopted over the next few years.
Yeah.
At least I hope so.
Yeah, and then I like weighted blankets too. They make you feel safe. They make it so you don't move as much while you're in your bed.
If you got the cool mat under you, then a weighted blanket on top isn't so bad, huh?
Yes, exactly. And then, is there anything else? Red light therapy, but that's not really sleep related. That's more energy related. So I use that in the morning. Yeah.
And you've got the infrared with the PEMF mat.
Yeah, I got that too. So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then the blue light blocking glasses,
yes.
of course.
Yeah, so I use Raw Optics is the company I work with.
Yeah.
And the reason why I work with them is the dude who makes those glasses has dedicated his entire life to light, like basically being the light expert. So I trust him.
Cool. Do you have the yellow ones, or do you have
I have the yellow ones. The reason why I have the red ones too, but I don't use the red ones because the red ones are too powerful.
Interesting.
So I would put them on. I'd have to go to sleep almost instantly, and I would wake up like too early. Like I wouldn't get enough sleep. And
wow, you put these glasses on and it makes you tired pretty quickly?
within half an hour, I was like, I would have to go to bed. So I switched to the yellow ones, and those ones work the way that I want them to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny, if you guys see people walking around in the yellow sunglasses, I never knew what it meant until I really got into the world. But there's a lot of benefit to them. I wear them at night too, especially if like my girlfriend's over, she wants to watch a movie until 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like those bad boys are going on every time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Those are non-negotiables. Yeah.
Kyle, for people who are interested in learning more about sleep, learning more about you and what you teach, where's a good place to go find you?
Yeah. YouTube.com/Kyle Got Camera. And then if you want to learn more about sleep and all that stuff, I have a course called The Sleep Advantage, and it's at thesleepadvantage.co.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Kyle, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah.
For a second time, for those listening, we recorded yesterday or the day before, and the audio went out. So I appreciate you coming back, spending some time with me.
Of course.
I think we did better the second round. What do you
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you.